Wilder is just over 7 months old, and we are in the process of teething. And so today's video, I am going to be enjoying this glass of wine because if you have a baby who's gone through teething, you understand exactly why I need this glass of wine. So I hope you won't mind me indulging. On the heels of that, when it comes to having a baby, there are so many things that we just can't control. We can set our preferences, we can talk about our options, we can set our perfect birth plan, and we can make informed decisions that stack the odds in our favor of like going the way that we hope it will and having the birth that we desire. But ultimately, birth happens how it's gonna happen. And the one thing that you can control is selecting your birth team. Like I said, Wilder is teething, and if you hear him in the back, his dad has him right now. He has very gracefully given me the chance to sit down and film this and take a break from that. So if you hear Wilder crying, he is being tended to. He's just fussy, like constantly fussy right now. Sorry in advance if you can hear him crying, but that is motherhood, and like I said, can't control everything. So we drink our wine and we continue on. Surrounding yourself with a strong hand-selected team to go through labor with you is going to put your mind at ease. It'll give you the chance to cultivate a relationship with your provider. It will ensure that you are able to move through labor with the type of care and the type of team that you desire. In today's video, we are going to talk about how to narrow down your birth team, some qualities that you might want to consider whenever you are interviewing people, and questions that might help you kind of figure out exactly what it is that you need for your birth team. If you have found yourself to my channel for the first time, my name is Carly. I am a labor and postpartum doula, and I create content here on my channel all about pregnancy and labor, postpartum and motherhood, and pretty much everything that falls in between. It is my passion to support, empower, and educate pregnant people so that they can have the natural birth experience that they desire. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing to this channel and join this amazing, empowering community so you can get all of the juicy pregnancy goodness every single week, and be sure to hit that notification bell so you know when my newest video goes live. So step one is you want to start to begin to narrow down exactly what it is that you want in your birth experience. Are you for sure interested in having an unmedicated natural labor, or are you all about having an epidural? Do you want to go to the hospital and like see how you feel? Do you want to try to avoid interventions? Try to start thinking about what it is that is important to you when it comes to the type of like medical care that you're going to be receiving whenever you are in labor. From there, you can start to focus down on like where you think you'll be delivering. So if you are interested in having an epidural, then you would be looking into hospitals. If you are interested in having a natural birth and are interested in unmedicated birth, then you can look into hospitals, you can look into birth centers, you can look into home birth. There are a couple of different options for you. If you are a low risk pregnancy and you are interested in home birth, you can start to explore different home birth options in your area. You have to start to kind of like piecemeal what it is that's really important to you, and then from there, it'll kind of dictate what options you have as far as delivery is concerned. The next thing you can do is decide if you are going to be paying for your birth through insurance or if you're going to be paying out of pocket. A lot of the home birth midwives locally for us actually didn't cover, our insurance didn't cover it, so we would have to pay out of pocket for that. And if you are going through your insurance provider, you want to ensure that you are seeing an OB who is covered by your insurance, because not everyone is going to be covered by your insurance policy. So if you know that you're going to be filing through insurance, then you're going to want to reach out to your insurance company and find a list of providers that are covered under your insurance. That will help to kind of like narrow down your focus about where you need to start thinking about like who you're going to be speaking to and who you need to start interviewing. Once you have those big ticket items kind of established, then from there you can move on to some of the smaller items that you're going to want to consider. Like, are you interested in breastfeeding, or are you interested in childbirth education? Are you interested in having somebody who is going to be there with you, kind of showing you the ropes of everything and like taking you through like step by step what to expect? So start to make like a sub tier of the things that are important to you, and then you can start to filter out exactly like what kind of supplemental support that you're going to need on top of your main provider. One thing that you'll definitely want to consider is location. If you are in kind of like a metropolitan area, it's less of a concern, but if you live on like the outskirts of town and you are interested in seeing like a certain OB or delivering at a certain hospital that you've heard really good things about, you're going to want to make sure that if you are traveling somewhere to have your baby, that it's within like a reasonable driving distance for you. Because if you want to deliver at a hospital that's 2 hours away and you're interested in having an unmedicated natural birth, you're going to want to do a lot of your laboring at home. And if you're laboring at home and going to the hospital just for delivery, location is going to be really, really important for you to consider. Start to kind of narrow down your area geographically and figure out what actually like logistically makes sense in pair with who you are going to be able to see through your insurance and the type of care that you're looking for. So your next step is to start doing research. There are so many different tools available for you online now that you can find pretty much anything that you might need for a birth through the online network. Facebook groups for your local area. My area has tons of Facebook group pages that are dedicated strictly to moms and like birthing centers and home birth community. There are tons of pages. So if you are looking for like a referral from people who have already gone through birth and have like recommendations for which birth centers, which hospitals, which midwives they really liked working with, which OBs, doulas, all that stuff, there are for sure going to be recommendations on those Facebook pages. So start to kind of look through your local Facebook groups and see what they have to say. There's also a website called healthgrades.com that is really helpful if you are going to be delivering with an OB or a CNM. There are likely some reviews for them online, so that's something that you might be able to look into. If you are like, Carly, I am ready to start doing research, I am ready to start having consultations, ready to start hiring, but like who do I actually need on my team whenever I am in labor? Some people you might want to consider having at your labor and delivery and providing care for you, actually prenatal to postpartum. The first one that you're probably thinking about is your OB. You also are going to want to think about if you want to deliver with a midwife instead. If you are delivering with a midwife, depending on where you live, there might be a couple of different options for you. There are CNMs, there are CMs, and there are CPMs. Those are kind of the three main ones. I actually just did a video about the differences between midwives and doulas and kind of like a breakdown amongst each one. So if you want to check that out, I will link it up above so that you can go and give it a watch to kind of get a better understanding of like each different one. Other ones that you're going to want to think about are your labor doula or your postpartum doula. You are going to want to think about whether or not you want a birth photographer or a birth videographer who is like capturing the actual day of and the delivery. You're going to want to think about whether or not you want to do any birth education leading up to delivery, and if you want to do any like preemptive classes, any kind of classes about sleep training, a lactation consultant. Do your research ahead of time, have a game plan, and then if you don't need it, you don't need it and you don't have to worry about it. Another thing you're going to want to start to think about is who you want in the room whenever you have the baby, who is not a hired or paid professional, but is your family and friends, right? So you're going to want to think about who you want to be your main support person, if that is your partner or a family member or a friend, whoever it's going to be that's like your main go-to person. You're going to want to start to think about that. And then on top of that, I know family is always a big question, right? Like how many people do you want in the room? Who do you want there? A lot of people, I think, get pressure from their family members to let them be there whenever the baby is born. But at the end of the day, it is 100% your decision to decide who you want in the room whenever you are laboring. If you have anybody in the room with you who is making you uncomfortable or who you really aren't all on board about them being there, it's going to slow labor down. The more people you have around you who take energy away from you rather than giving energy to you is only going to stall labor. Really start to think about who it is that's going to be there, because that will kind of dictate how many additional people you're going to want in the room with you. Once you kind of have decided who it is exactly that you're going to want to hire, you're going to start finding people, you're going to start getting recommendations, doing research, and you're going to reach out and start to have consultations with these folks. And then after you've had those consultations, after you've spent time with all of your providers and you decide, okay, this is my perfect team, I have all the support I could want, use them. Do not be afraid to reach out to the people that you select to be on your birth team, because they are invaluable to you. And there's for some reason this like tendency, especially if you're a first-time mom, to like not ask questions and to not reach out because of this, you know, there's just like a stereotype about being a first-time mom and like always having questions. But of course you always have questions. You've never done it before. You are hiring somebody to provide a service to you. Use the service. You are paying for it. Absolutely use it. And I always love whenever I have moms that ask me questions, because I love to share information. If somebody's working in the birth space, I guarantee you that they are excited to share information with you. So if you don't have the option to hand select like one person that you know is going to be there for the day of delivery, try and find out if you can meet with multiple people in the office, meet with multiple doctors, multiple midwives, whoever, so that you can kind of like get to know them a little bit. That way, whenever it actually does come time for delivery, you at least have like a name and a face and maybe a little bit of like an understanding of your birth preferences. And even if you do decide that you are gonna have a home birth and you hand select a midwife, they might not make it in time. If you haven't seen my birth story yet, I will link it here so you can go and check it out and hear my story, because I did hand select my provider, but I didn't actually have my provider there whenever I delivered. You can set all the preferences that you want, but at the end of the day, you never know what's gonna go down. One thing that I will encourage you to do whenever you start to interview people is don't be afraid to ask the scary questions. You have to be able to put yourself out there so that you get the information that you need in order to make the informed decisions that you have to make whenever you are having a baby. Think about those questions that maybe feel a little bit uncomfortable talking about, and really talk about them. Get more information from your provider. Know exactly what it is like on the top list of their priorities. You want their priorities for birth to match up with your priorities for birth. So figure out what those are for yourself first and foremost, and then whenever you talk to them, don't be afraid to really dive in. Peel back the onion with them. Get an understanding of what's important to them, and it will give you a lot of insight into whether or not they're going to be a good fit for you for your birth story. I wish you the best of luck when you are interviewing people for your birth team. I know it is a really exciting time, but also can be a little bit overwhelming. So I hope that you can find people who are helpful to you and who can make your experience the birth that you desire. But in the meantime, like I said earlier, if you are not already, please consider subscribing to my channel. I make content all about pregnancy and labor, so I would love to have you. And that's it for today's video, you guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye.